Welcome to our experiment, the 100-person project. It's simple questions for 100 people, and it's a research project just to gather data from 100 beautiful human beings for the sole purpose to see what actually happens across the interviews. Now, the questions are fixed, and all interviews will remain consistent, with the variable being the actual participants themselves. And although we're unsure of what we're going to discover, if anything, upon completion, we remain very interested in the people, the process, and their particular stories. So with that said, I'd like to introduce our guest for this podcast. What is your full name?
Dawn and Zavalishin.
That's great. And what is your favorite nickname that most people don't know?
Well, this was a tough one. So it's a great question. And the name happens to be Cupie, like the Cupie doll from way back when.
Cupie. That's beautiful.
Yep.
I haven't heard that word in a very, very long time.
Yep. Yeah. It goes way back at this point, probably before kids. And I have two teenagers, but my husband started running, was in a running club with his friend who happens to be one of our attorneys. And I don't know, it just stuck. We were running one day and he came out with, you're like a little Cupid doll. He's like, you're little and you run really fast and, everybody wants to have one. So that's it. It's stuck ever since. I just called him the other day, several years later, and I left a message for him at his law office. And the person asked me what name to leave, and I said Cupid. And there was a very quiet, long pause. So it was amusing. I like doing it now just for effect.
That's cute. And I do think you sort of resemble a Cupid doll, no doubt about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So when did you first notice what color hair you had?
Um, Obviously when I was young. It's funny, my mom always cut my hair short. And so my sister always would tease me that I was like her little brother. And so I don't think I ever really noticed my hair until about fifth grade. And I actually finally decided I wanted to start growing my hair longer. And I think that's when I really started noticing the different highlights and the different colors, and that I just wasn't, this brown haired girl. I actually had highlights in my hair, and I had some red hints from my grandma and some blondes, coming out. And so yeah, it was a bit of a discovery period for me going through. And I had curly hair, so on top of it, so it was quite the enlightenment somewhere around fifth grade to
Go.
what
And
my hair really
you
was.
still have curly hair.
Yeah, I do.
So what is your favorite thing to do to intentionally waste time?
I can hear my husband in the background, but my favorite thing to do, my little indulgence, is to sit with either a hot cup of cocoa or a nice cup of coffee and watch Hallmark movies because they always have a happy ending.
That is
Who
cute.
doesn't like a happy ending, right? So,
Sure.
yeah.
So what is your favorite movie to watch alone?
Oh gosh. Another tough question. There's so many good movies. Um, I think if we go way back, Terms of Endearment is one of the movies I remember most because I just was sobbing. Um, and there was also the other one would be a movie with Bette Midler. Um, and her song became famous when Beneath My Wing. I think the movie was called Beaches. Um, and that's a tearjerker. My sister and I watch it a lot together. But yeah, the ones that make me really cry, like a lot, I prefer to watch alone.
They're not your go out in front of people movies, are
They
they?
are not. No, you have like that ugly cry going and the tears and mascara running kind of movie. So yeah.
My buddy called them, snotty tears, that kind of thing.
That's right. That's right. You can't let many people see that look.
They got to be pretty good friends, I would imagine.
That's right.
So Dawn, and
Mhm.
DAWN, not like Siri always spells it, DON, after I hit the go and send you a message.
That's right.
So Dawn, if you were to have an action figure made of you, what superpower would it have and what colors would its uniform be?
Gosh, another good question I've actually pondered over the years. It's hard. That's a hard question, Bill. Um, I think my superpower would be to be able to speak to people's philanthropic side more, to open up that door for them to be charitable. And I think my colors, that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. I think they would have to be white because I relate white to hope and newness and new beginnings. Um, and I think some type of shade of blue because I also think that's newness and abundance. We have so much water on this earth. And nature, I think I tend to think of nature as being blue and green. So there'd probably be three colors, but if I had to pick, probably blue and white.
Would you have any kind of headgear?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, no, I don't think so. I'm not a big hat fan, so I don't think I would have headgear. No, we'll leave the halos to the real angels, right?
I hear we all have them anyway, and only the really cool people can see them.
That's right. That's right.
So, what did you want to be when you grew up and you were 5 years old?
I wanted to be a bank teller. Yeah, I know, right? I just thought it was the coolest thing. I used to play with my friends because, back then there weren't any phones or any, we had to really use our imagination and creativity. And my dad used to work at a bank and he'd bring home like blank deposit slips and withdrawal forms and things like that and notepads. And I would have my friends, I'd open my window to my bedroom. We lived in an apartment, so it was small, but I would open the window to my bedroom and my friends would drive up on their bicycles and they would have their sheet filled out and I would have play money and I would be able to exchange the play money. And I just thought it was fun, I guess, to be able to play with money all day. So bank teller. Yeah.
I can get that too. One of my favorite games growing up when I at an early age was Monopoly, and it was all about the Benjamins.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's kind of funny you say that because yeah, I love being able to be the banker and hand out money and just yeah.
And you've had your hands on a fair amount of it over your lifetime so far. I'm sure you'll have a bunch more before you're done.
I hope so. Use it for good.
100%. What is your greatest accomplishment, Dawn?
That's an easy answer. That's the easiest question so far. I feel like my kids are my greatest accomplishment. I think being a mom, I have two teenagers. One will be driving in June, and my other one turns 15, and they are just very great young people. I had a 25-year career that I gave up to be a stay-at-home mom. So once my son hit kindergarten, and I feel like they're just they're just good people. They're really kind and caring, and they're inclusive, and I feel like they must have gotten a little bit from me, and my husband's a decent human being too. So I feel like yeah, they are. I don't know if they're accomplishments. I guess You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, for me, it's being a good mom.
Yeah, I think, the working definition of accomplishment for me is action that you took that turned out, really well. And I think your children are beautiful as well. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Thanks.
So, who is your favorite person to listen to?
Oh, this is a tough one, Bill, because I don't want to have that ugly cry like I talked about earlier. Can it be someone who is deceased?
This is your interview.
All right. So I would have to say my biggest influences and the people that I loved to speak to the most were my grandparents. And I just think those conversations, they went through depressions and wars, and they went through so much, and the families tended to be a lot larger back then. I mean, my one of my grandfathers had 13 siblings, another had 9, my grandmother had 5. I mean, it was just big families, but somehow they worked together, and they were just such strong individuals. And to listen to them and provide their wisdom to me, uh, you know, 20 years later, there's not a day that doesn't go by that I wish I could continue those conversations. And I have so many more questions. So, yeah.
Along those lines, what's a question that you might put to them right now?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, there's so many. I think one of the questions is how did they do it all? They raised kids, they worked, they had, like, a lot of times they raised their grandchildren too. Um, and they were always so gracious and happy and welcomed everybody into their home. And nobody went hungry, so to speak. So, sorry for the dog in the background, but yeah, I would just ask them how they did it all, how that, like, what kept them going and motivated. Um, because they were all successful in their own right.
Mhm.
So,
So please complete this sentence. When I grow up, I'd like to.
do I have to grow up, Bill? Oh goodness. Again, good questions. I think when I grow up, I would like to have enough time to be able to travel the country and give back. Um, Go to Africa, um, and just see the world and be able to experience people, in different cultures and different places, and really be able to just be and not have to be tied down to a schedule or timelines or calendars, um, and work. I have a nonprofit, but I still work. I still have a job. So, besides the nonprofit, so I think that would be a great thing, just to be able to spend time with people in different cultures and different places, and learn more about this fine world that we live in.
Excellent. So, what is the most important thing in life to you right now?
Raising two functional adults. um, yeah, I think that I'm doing a good job. So we're doing okay there so far. So yeah, I think the most important thing to me outside of family, would be my nonprofit. There's this really interesting need in this world for the Crohn's disease and colitis patients and folks trying to get into remission. And there's this gap that I have found. Nobody, I think, does it besides what we do, but we're trying to establish funds in hospitals and physician offices to help offset healthcare costs for things like infusion co-payments, medical supplies, prescription drugs, hotel stays. A lot of people travel to these infusion centers, especially for pediatrics. Um, so yeah, I don't think there's enough hours in a day I could spend trying to um, build those funds to help offset, the 1.6 plus million people that live with Crohn's and colitis every day.
Hmm. So what would you like to leave in the world after your life is done?
Hmm. I think for me, I'd like to leave a little bit more kindness in this world. I don't think that there's enough. I don't think that people compliment each other enough on a daily basis. I think people can be very judgy of others without opening the book and peeling back the layers of the pages and really seeing what's going on with individuals. Everybody has a story, and sometimes those stories are harder than others. Um, and I think a lot of things going on in this world today, a lot of things we see, whether it's gay pride or Black Lives Matter, things going on in different countries that I think we kind of close our eyes to. Um, wouldn't it be nice if we could all have a little kindness in our life and a little bit more forgiveness and understanding? So if I can leave my children with that and help them to grow up, and other parents can do the same thing for their kids, perhaps we can see a different world moving forward in years to come.
That's beautiful.
Thanks.
And so now the baker's question, with a dozen, we used to go to the bakery and then the baker always put a 13th, whatever it was. In.
I remember very well, Bill. Yeah. Love the Baker's dozen.
I'm very interested in this question for you, Dawn. What is the thing most people misunderstand about you?
Oh gosh. Um, I have a bit of a fiery personality, Bill, believe it or not. And I think that people misunderstand my genuineness. I don't know if people, I like real relationships and building real connections. And sometimes that takes time. So I have layers to me. So I think people sometimes misinterpret me coming across a little bit harsh or a little bit cold. I think that's just the New England girl in me. We're tough, but we're genuine. We're very genuine people. And I think that sometimes it can come across wrong. It can come across too rough, too brassy, I guess, for lack of a better word. But everything I do is from the heart, and it always has been. So I think I wish people understood that about me more. Is that what you see is what you get, and it's a big heart.
I certainly get that. I certainly appreciate your sharing yourself with all of us. And before we call this a completion, do you have any questions of me?
I would like to ask you all the same questions, frankly.
I'm sure we could do that. Is there one that sticks out that you'd really like to get an answer to?
Yeah, I think I'd like to know what your superhero colors would be as well, and what your superpower would be. Because that was a tough question, I think.
Well, I've given this some thought because, as you know, I have a podcast called Lighting the Candle. We're up over 90 episodes that we recorded in the last year and a half. So I think my superpower would be to be an agent of empathic empowerment for people, so that I could actually allow people to find the good in themselves that they're not seeing, and be aware of it and be moved by it. So, and I can only imagine the difference in the world that would make if all people had the same self-respect as they have for the person that they most respect in their life, whoever that may be. So the superpower would be turning that on and lighting those people up and giving them the life that they deserve, on their own terms, the way they want to live it. The colors, they're I've been a purple and gold guy for most of my life. I mean, I started out, green was my favorite number or favorite color when I was a kid. I thought it was a number at first, and it turned out to be a color. It was like 1, 2, 3, 5 green, but purple and gold have been colors that I've gravitated to. Yes, I will have a cape, and I'm kind of liking the beard. I'll probably keep that as well, but I'll be totally buff and 100% muscular with no flab or fat anywhere. I mean, as long as we're making this up, we may as well go.
That's right.
And that's pretty much how I would see my superhero doll. Yes.
Nice. Would you keep the gray beard, or would you make that purple, gold, or both?
Well, I've had this conversation. My older daughter just did her hair with some purple and blue in it. And I said, well, I probably ought to do that too. And she said, don't you dare. So since she expressed a rather powerful opinion, I would have to respect that because I love her to death.
How could she be rebellious if you're doing the same thing, right?
No, that's that funny thing, how everybody wants to be unique and individual, but you look to the right and you look to the left and they look just like, just like me,
Do that.
Well, I want to thank you for giving me a half hour of your time. You're a wonderful friend and human being, and I appreciate you working with me on this experiment, this project. I'm very interested to see how this goes, because the interviews that I've done so far have been with very, very beautiful people, you and Lisa Sheehan so far. And both of you are thinkers. Both of you are you're heartfelt people and mindful people. So I appreciate your time, and I want to thank you again. And all you folks at home, I'm looking for you. I will be coming with my questions in hand. And I wish you the most amazing day. And I want to leave you with one last question. How will you make today the best day ever? Bye for now.
Thanks, Bill.
You've been listening to Simple Questions for 100 People, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.